Hi, Shannon Waller here with Dan Sullivan on the Inside Strategic Coach podcast. Dan, one of the newest ideas that you've been working with and are very excited about is this whole idea of what it takes to become a game changer. And I know that you've got some updates and you're thinking that you wanted to share. So how are you defining or thinking about game changer right now?
Yeah, well, first of all, I believe that throughout our strategic coach experience, and that goes right back to 1974 when I first became a one-on-one coach, I've been very conscious that there are certain entrepreneurs who not only change their game as entrepreneurs, which means that they multiply their results, but they have ideas about their particular industry, the marketplace, that not only would make them incredibly more successful, 10 times, 100 times more successful, but they can put this out in a way that actually makes everyone in their industry better. That includes their competitors. So the decisive idea here is that you are feeling so abundant about your own value creation and your own innovation that you feel very, very free to put out a whole set of new ideas and new concepts and new structures into the marketplace, which everyone in your industry, everyone in your marketplace, including people who might think of themselves as your direct competitors, would benefit from. They will get better. They'll become more skillful. They'll become more ambitious. And as a result of that, the whole marketplace, the whole game that everybody is playing changes in a transformative way. It just changes. So I've had going on 40 years experience of noticing this. And over the last couple of years, I say it's time for us now to create an entirely new level of the Strategic Coach program. And this is kicking off in April 10th of 2018. And the whole point of this is to jump out of just the framework of your own company and now start creating an entirely new framework for thinking and achieving in the marketplace that benefits everyone. You're instantly seen as a leader, a thought leader in your industry, because you probably already have that experience of being seen as an innovative leader. And my feeling is that this, for one, is just enormously exciting. It's a source of enormous entrepreneurial happiness when you can do this. And it gets you out of this being worried about your competition and worried about, there's only so much opportunity, where you're not even worried about the opportunity because you're the one who's creating the opportunity.
That sounds to me like the very highest level of entrepreneurship.
This is the very highest level of entrepreneurism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah.
So how do people go about becoming a game changer? So say someone's got that drive. I mean, obviously they probably would have been doing a little bit now, but there are some specific both actions and mindsets to have in order to be a game changer. What are some of them?
Well, if you look at the progression of growth from the time that someone first enters into the Strategic Coach program, and the vast majority of people start at the level of the Signature program. The goal of the Signature program, and usually we tell people to give themselves about 2 or 3 years in their time estimate of what it's going to take. What you want to create, first of all, is an organization that's a self-managing company. Okay. And that entails that the entrepreneur, right from their first involvement in Strategic Coach, they take seriously that what they have to do is simplify their role exponentially. In other words, if they're doing 20 things, at the end of 3 years, they're going to get down to about 3 or 4 things. So they're going to simplify their role. But the activities they're doing are activities that fascinate and motivate them. And then they expand outside of themselves, but inside their company, a capability network. This is a term that you've used, Shannon. I think it's a great thing. Think of your company as a capability network, where there are other people who are also operating inside their unique ability. And they are so good at what they do that they take total ownership of their activity inside your company. Okay. And they own it. They just totally own it. And they start managing all the areas of activity, which guarantees everything that's been put in place with your company, it's going to go forward. So you don't have to think about that anymore. You don't have to be involved in it anymore as the entrepreneur. And now you can think bigger. You can go bigger with growing the company, not just having the company survive.
Just to jump in for a moment, that is such a cool way, Dan, of talking about ownership. And it's so true. The only time you, as the owner, as the founder, feel comfortable, as you said, simplifying exponentially what you're doing is if other people step in and take the same amount of, I'm going to call it emotional ownership, because it may not be financial. It does not have to be financial, which is a relief for a lot of people. But they take such emotional ownership over their role and the results and the impact it's having on your clientele that you don't have to. Mm-hmm. And you get to just take ownership of the kind of the bigger picture, the vision, and what you're really unique at doing. There's just so much more room that creates for other people. And then, as you said, that totally frees you up. So that sharing or distributing ownership, I think, is a very interesting way to put that. Thank you.
One thing I want to say, having achieved this, you're not a game changer yet, okay? Because now you have to think 10 times. In other words, you're freed up now to think of what your company would be like 10 times bigger and better than it is right now. So you're freed up as the entrepreneur to be in charge of that, and that's the 10 times ambition program. So that's the second level of strategic coach, which is the 10 times. And now you're actively involved with a future date and a future result, which is 10 times your best results right now, okay? And you can focus your best abilities as an individual on that because you have a self-managing company. If you don't have that assurance that you don't have to be in control of the day-to-day activity, but you're in charge of growing the future 10 times company, then everybody is filled with enthusiasm about this. There's going to be just constant growth in this company. And then there's a number of years, 2 or 3 years or 4 years, where you're really putting in place all the resources and structures which will make 10 times growth normal. The interesting thing about it is that I think that from when I got real interested in this with Strategic Coach, we're about 1,600 times bigger than when I got the idea of this 10 times. We went 10 times once, we went 10 times twice, and we're on our third 10 times. But the measurement, if I go back to the beginning of the program in 1989, we're 1,600 times bigger.
Wow.
There were 2 or 3 of us at that time. Now we're 130, speaking about where we are today. You know, we were a Toronto-based company, then we went trans-Canada, then we went North American-wide, and now we're in the UK, which pulls in an enormous amount of the other world. And more, we're a global company. And this has just been step by step of going through new 10 times structures. And my life is incredibly simpler, happier today than it was when we were right at the beginning. So no complexity has been added to my role. Actually, simplicity has been added to my role. So think about this from an entrepreneurial standpoint. There are certain things that every entrepreneur loves doing. There's things that fascinate them and motivate them about growing bigger. But for the most part, if they're involved in the complexity of managing everything day to day, they lose their initial enthusiasm as being an entrepreneur. But what I want to show is there's a bypass to this, and it's self-managing company. And then when you go 10 times, what the characteristic of the company is that it becomes self-multiplying. Okay, so the people who were gifted at self-managing your company now, as they expand their capabilities and their own personal ambitions within the company, the impact of that is that there's lots of aspects of your company that become self-multiplying. Okay, so think about the two great organizational capabilities. The dream of most entrepreneurs is that they could have a self-managing company, and that's like going to entrepreneurial heaven. But we're saying, well, no, that's just stage one. The second stage can only be done within the framework of a 10 times vision for your company. Then all the capabilities that allowed you to be self-managing now become self-multiplying, okay? And I want to say that when you reach heaven number two, you're still not a game changer.
Whoa.
You're still not a game changer. I mean, you're impressive, and lots of people talk about what a wonderful organization you have, but it's not a game changer yet, because this requires another shift in mind. And this is the stage I want to talk to you about right now, is the game changer level, which is level 3, heaven number 3, for entrepreneurs. And that comes where you now have this simplified vision that your entire company that's self-managing and self-multiplying is just a single capability in the marketplace. So I'm going to call this capability number 1. So you now have arrived where you can now go into the marketplace and do some transformatively radical things in the marketplace. But remember, you as the entrepreneur are just doing 2 or 3 things. So you haven't gotten any more complex. Your life hasn't become any more complex. You're taking tons of free time. You're in great physical shape. You've got a great lifestyle around you. But this is where you have a vision of taking everything you've created. I just use the number, and you're getting 100 times greater impact out in the marketplace. I just use that as a framework. You already know what 10 times feels like, so now we're going to talk about 100 times. And then when you go 100 times, you say, I don't think I can do that inside the company that I've created. This requires a different kind of arrangement out in the marketplace, and this is the key to the game changer, that you have to scale the impact of your entrepreneurial creation out in the marketplace by collaborating with another organization that is in a similar state of development, level of achievement, and together by collaborating with another very innovative organization, you're going to create a vision of a huge impact. It could be a national impact. It could be a global impact. And the interesting thing about this is that the person or the group that you would collaborate with, they have reached the same stage that they can't multiply and scale unless they collaborate with someone else. There are people out there who would love to collaborate, they just don't know who to collaborate with. But you have to be the one to state the vision, okay? So I'm stating the vision. And the interesting thing about this is that the moment you start talking about your vision, those collaborators show up. Just like when you state that you want to create a self-managing company, the team members show up, and then the multiplier skills show up when you state that you have a 10 times vision for your company. But now we're talking about, I say 100 times, it might be 1,000 times, it might be 1,000,000 times bigger. But you're doing this from a platform of confidence that you have created this very, very unique entrepreneurial organization. And as a result of that, you can now collaborate, okay? And the skills of the collaborator are totally different from your skills, okay? But together, you can scale. You can't get to 100 times because you're lacking certain capabilities. And the collaborator is attracted to you because they would like to go 100 times, but they don't have the skills, but together you do. And that's the game changer. So the qualification to be in the game changer program is everything I've mentioned up until now. In Boy Scout terms, you have to get all the right merit badges and get to the right level. But now you have those, and now you can play this game in the marketplace. And I call this the game changer, that together, these 2 collaborative abilities put together will create an entirely new game. It might create an entirely new industry. But it's very practical because you've already explored this and tested it, and it's just the next jump for you in your entrepreneurial growth.
You can really see that without those merit badges, without having a self-managing company and the processes and structures and the talent for a self-multiplying company, that Game Changer would just be too intimidating to take on. You don't want to multiply complexity. You want to multiply simplicity.
No, it would paralyze you. I mean, you just say, well, there's no possibility of me doing this. And yet we see Game Changer organizations all over the world. So what I've done is I've done a lot of research to say, well, how'd they pull this off? The model that I have. So what I have here, if I number it, there's the capability of strategic coach, which is capability 1. And then there's a whole other capability out in the marketplace, and that's also capability number 1, because from their perspective, they're number 1. So you're taking a number 1, a 1 plus a 1, and you're producing a 3. And the Game Changer is 3. Neither capability partner has access to that game number 3 unless they collaborate.
We've got some really great examples of how that can happen. The one I'm thinking of is with our client from India, who also partnered with a firm in Chicago. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, this is Ninad. He's from Mumbai, and he's been in the 10 Times program right from the beginning. So 6-7 years he's been in. He's got essentially a space planning for really, really successful businesses. Coming into the 10 Times program, he immediately created a self-managing company for him. So he spread all over India. And he said, I'm just doing the space planning part of large commercial developments. And he said, I'd like to be able to do all the development in a project where you're just starting with bare land and you would create the whole project. And he says, I don't have any of those capabilities. So to make a long story short, he put out this vision into the marketplace, and the collaborator that he found was a 100-year-old full development company from Chicago, Illinois. So here he is in Mumbai, and he puts out a vision, and it attracts a company from Chicago. And the vision that they had was that they saw India as their next big growth. They're nationwide in the United States, but they want to go to India. And they know nothing about India. He knows everything about India. He knows where all the key people are. He knows where the best places are to develop new commercial complexes. So they teamed up. And now they have a thing where he's going to be the capability that introduces them right across India, and they're going to teach him and his organization how to develop a project from start to finish. And then he says, as soon as we do that in India, then I'm going to go to other countries with my new capability. So that shows you. But his role is very simple. He's just inside of his unique ability. He came to coach and he did his all-day unique ability session. He knows exactly what his unique ability is. He knows what the capabilities of his team are, that he can be a great collaborative partner with this firm from Chicago. It's a beautiful thing. And he was the first person to sign up for the Game Changer program. And it's kind of interesting that came from half a world away when I put out this idea. Now, my role and my Game Changer is that I'm doing a collaborative relationship with everybody in the 10 Times program, because you have to be in the 10 Times program to qualify for the Game Changer program. But I'm going to put 50 Game Changer entrepreneurs in the same workshop room. They're all going to have the model of 1 + 1 = 3, and we're going to use the entire participation of the Game Changer program as the coach. So I'm the coach in the sense that I've set up this opportunity. It's going to have game rules of workshop rules just like any other workshop, but the main teachers are going to be all these 50 entrepreneurs teaching each other about how they're maximizing this collaborative partnership to create their new game in the marketplace. And there's going to be hundreds of innovative processes and techniques that will show people you don't have to spend a year developing this. I found how you could get this with a phone call. And, there's all sorts of great platforms, technological platforms that you can use, that you can just utilize this and the talents available. And there are great vendors out here who can provide all sorts of things. But a vendor is not a collaborative partner. This is a different person. So I am so excited about this because it just seems to me that this is the appropriate next jump for me as an entrepreneur. It's the appropriate next jump for a strategic coach as a great partner. And we can collaborate with all these other game changers. And so that's my game changer project.
That is so exciting. All I can imagine, Dan, are the conversations in the room and how all of these ideas will be bubbling and people will be sorting through them really fast and taking action. I think we're going to see an explosion of entrepreneurial activity and ideas and value creation and impact out of this Game Changer workshop. So I can't wait.
The fee for being in that room is $50,000 a year. I was talking to some people and I said, I have to tell you that in your very first workshop, you'll get an idea that at the end of 1 year, it'll be worth $1 million. So it's $50,000 to participate. And my feeling is that in the very first workshop, within the first 8 hours of the program, you will get ideas that can actually be measured as $1 million value at the end of the first year.
That's a superb return on investment.
Yes, it is. Yes,
I love that. I love that. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that the movie that's been made about you, the amazing film, is called Game Changer. If anyone wants to check it out, it's the dansullivanmovie.com. So if you want to see, again, Dan, you've articulated so crystal clearly today, if that's a term, but if anyone wants to just watch and see the whole evolution of how you got to here, how we got to here, and where we're going, that movie is so incredibly inspiring. And what I love about it is it's just, to my mind, so validating for who entrepreneurs are, for what's possible, for them to have the quality of life that they aspire to but so often don't experience, and then how they can just make the biggest possible positive difference in the world. The movie just does a brilliant job of articulating that. So I think it's very inspiring for anyone to watch it, not only because it's about you and about Strategic Coach, but actually what's possible for entrepreneurs in general. So by all means, please go and check out the dansullivanmovie.com. Thank you very much, Dan. This has been a very exciting conversation. I can't wait to hear more once Game Changer gets started.
Thank you, Shannon.